Louise Bedford here, your host of the Mind Over Market segment. This is how traders think. This week on the show, I have a special treat. I have Michael Licenblat, who is a resilience expert, and you're going to want to listen to every single word this man says. Michael, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so good to be here.
Look, Michael, I know I haven't given you justice in terms of your title here and what you actually do. Resilience is only one aspect. The thing that I love is that your book, Pressure Proof, How to Thrive in Times of Disruption, Change, and Pressure, has just been so well received. Michael, other than that, I know you've got a martial arts background.
So my formal background comes from science and psychology. So I had a love for understanding how people think and why we behave the way we do. So my formal education comes from there. But my informal education comes also from martial arts and in developing my own business in natural therapies too. So I've been doing martial arts for probably longer than I care to say. And it really has taught me a lot about how people operate in high pressure environments, how to keep a cool head and be much more efficient when you're dealing with attack and threat, which is incredibly relevant to business. I've also run my own natural therapies business some years ago. And when I got into the business, this was back when natural therapies wasn't one of those popular things like it is more today. This was back when it was people would look at you sideways. You do what? And I had to build up my business old style. So I went door to door and just kind of handed out flyers, talked about the work, and just dealt with rejections and setbacks and pushback and just could have cut my teeth and how to recover quickly and to sell on value. And so that aspect of resilience is not so much just about smiling and being positive and happy, but rather how we implement faster, how we get stuff done and get outcomes when you're dealing with adversity and pressure. So I bring that kind of background through those aspects that I've both lived through and learned and weave it together in a methodology that allows us to bounce back fast and be pressure proof.
I love that because one of the things with traders is that we really do need to shorten the time between shock and recovery. We need to be able to turn that over super fast. Traders, we make a lot of losses in the market. It's just the way it is. And if we dwell on those and if we wallow in those
Mm.
losses, that can be a real problem. So let's cut to the chase. Let's talk about pressure. How does pressure affect traders' decision making and how can we stay focused when we're under pressure?
So pressure is a great accelerator for thinking. What it does is it creates narrow or kind of tunnel vision thinking. Now, the advantage of that is that whenever you're dealing with a threat or a challenge, our attention goes right on the problem so that we can put all our energy into solving that problem. And ultimately, it's a survival technique. It's designed to keep us alive. Now, what that means when we're dealing with decisions is that it will focus and force us to actually make decisions faster. And they tend to feel like life or death decisions because our adrenaline kicks in, cortisol gets in the body, we get switched on, and we get what's called also this myopic focus, where I can only really see the goals and targets that are right in front of me. I tend to lose my lateral decision-making ability. Studies have found that particularly for police officers, when they in their training, when they put them under high pressure situations, their ability to recall what's happened is a bit lower. Their ability to solve problems, because the adrenaline is so high in their system, it actually gets in the way of basic arithmetic. You've come out of a high intensity training and they've pulled, okay, what's 2 times 3? And it just takes the brain a little bit of time. Now, the reason that's relevant is that when you're trading and you have to make decisions under pressure, if you are feeding off the hype and the adrenaline of what you're doing, it feels good, but it can also infiltrate good, clear decision making. We can be a little bit impulsive and reactive and sometimes not consider all the factors you may need to consider to make a decent decision around where to trade and stop loss, etc.
Mm. I like what you're saying there. I'm comparing it to a study that was done on owls versus larks. So I'll describe the study and I'd love your thoughts. The thought is that if you are a natural nighttime person, so an owl, If you're forcing yourself to make trading decisions in the morning, not only will those decisions take you longer, but they will also be less accurate. If you were matching your chronology, which is whether you're most likely to be a morning person or most likely to be an owl person. So for me, I'm a morning person. At night, my trading is lousy. I can actually feel my stomach gurgle and I'm under pressure. That pressure of staying awake when I know I shouldn't be making big decisions can make a real difference. This is something I feel traders need to match to their natural state of being. I'd love your thoughts on that study.
And so, with that study, what was the interesting part, I think, what you've said, is that if you can respect what your body does well naturally, you want to be able to do more of that. The other side to that is that when adrenaline kicks in or when the pressure kicks in, it will give a false sense of confidence, a false sense of intensity, or not will give an intensity, but it will give a false sense of assurity, which means that if you're a morning person and you start trading in the day or night, and that's accompanied with maybe too many glasses of coffee and maybe a little bit too much intensity, it starts to give you the sense of, I've really got this, when really you should be respecting your body, and that the adrenaline is falsely giving you a sense of confidence or hyper focus that's not your natural thing. So notice that pressure will, again, create focus, but it can also mask when we're not necessarily in the best framework.
Yeah, I like that masking. I think the emotional side of trading, that can actually create
Mm.
difficulties too, because as a trader, we are sitting quite still in front of a screen. Inside, we might be screaming and it might just feel like our stomach has dropped through the floor because our stop loss has been hit and we didn't think it would be. And it can actually change us physiologically, but on the outside, we're very, very still. What impact do you feel emotions has on a trader's ability not only to stick to their plan, but also possibly to be able to get the results that they feel they deserve?
So there's two things in what you've just said. The fact in the first part is the physicality, and the second part is the emotion and the impact on further decisions. So the physicality first. When we're dealing with high pressure, the body's getting a dump of adrenaline and cortisol. The body is reacting as if we are physically fighting a threat. So muscles are tightening up 4 times faster and more intensely than they ordinarily would. Blood's going faster into my heart, it's pumping faster, my lungs are breathing faster, and all in response to an actual threat. The threat's actually more up here, and the threat's around losing, gaining money. But because I'm not physically moving my body, all those chemicals that are designed to be liberated from the body, designed to make my body spring into action, they're still. And so that physical tension that I will feel, that will result in tension through parts of the neck, the shoulder, the stomach, the chest, parts of the lower back, even in your calves as well. That tension, when it's held for a long period of time, fatigues the body. And after a while, you can feel physically fatigued from trading, even though you've not actually physically done much, your body feels tired because you haven't allowed the strain to be processed in the way it's designed, which is through movement and activity. And that can also distract decision making. If I'm dealing with prolonged pressure and strain and I'm not moving the tension from there, my decisions become fatigued. I become irritable. I become impulsive. I just want stuff done now. And therefore, my patience loses, which feeds into the next part of your questions, how that emotional state will affect us. And this will come into the aspects of the studies that have been done around immediate and delayed gratification. And I take your attention back to, I think it was 1960, that famous Stanford University marshmallow study. Do you know the one that I'm talking about?
I do. I have 2 children, Michael, as you know. Really, they have just been like little rats running through mazes through for their entire life. I replicated that marshmallow study just to see how that would go. Give us the outline.
So what happened, psychologists had children roughly about between the ages of 7 and 9 in the room. On a table was placed a plate with one marshmallow. And I said, listen, you can have the marshmallow right now if you want. I'm going to go away. I'm going to come back in about 10, 15 minutes. If you haven't touched the marshmallow, I'll give you 2 more. What percentage of kids, rather, ate the marshmallow right away? and it was about 2/3. So 66% approximately ate the marshmallow right away. And the question was why? And what was interesting is that number one, that well, adults lie. So kids thought, well, we're going to grab the marshmallow now. And secondly, was this feeling of, but I wanted it. I felt this need, and I didn't feel that I could wait. What was the really interesting part of this experiment is what happened about 10, 15 years later. They found that those who were able to say no to the marshmallow initially were more successful in their finances, in their relationships, in what they've managed to achieve, than those that actually said yes to the marshmallow right away. And they concluded that the ability to say no, that delayed gratification, to say no to what I really feel like in order to get what I want. In other words, don't compromise on what you have right now to get what you want in the future, was a predictor for success. And this talks about the whole aspect of emotion and impulsiveness, is that sometimes when we feel pressure, emotion will kick in faster. In fact, emotion travels faster than logic. So emotion will arrive at a decision before logic does, which will mean that I will sometimes do, say, or feel things before my brain has a chance to catch up and go, oh, don't do that. Never mind. And so we need to understand that that whole aspect of delayed gratification, to not necessarily do just what I feel like, don't give up on what you want most for what you want now, but to do what is right. So if you've got a trading system and a process to follow, but your emotions kick in and go, but I'm saying something now, shouldn't I just do that? I don't know if I can wait. What that's happening is a natural part of your body, of your emotions, doing what they're supposed to do. But your job is to recognize that and pull it back and go, it's okay to react, but I need to let a bit of time so logic can catch up and I can follow my trading formula, my trading process.
I like that because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to stick to the process
Yeah,
and the outcome will look after itself.
there
But
you
I
have it.
want to talk more about outcomes because I do think we have got an ambiguous set of feedback coming through the markets. Sometimes we do exactly the wrong thing and we get rewarded. And that is a difficult thing with the traders that I'm dealing with. So, why do you think taking control over trading outcomes and accepting responsibility is so important?
So taking accountability is one of the most important aspects for growth and learning. What we've found in the resilience sphere is that people who are quick to blame circumstances or "Oh, it wasn't my fault, this happened," or to blame people, have a much lower capacity to tolerate pressure and a much lower ability to recover quickly from setbacks, partly because they've given power away to the source of things to other areas. Now, it doesn't mean that what they're saying is wrong. But when I'm in the habit of giving control away, giving power away, then it's not my fault. And if it's not my fault, I can't change or can improve. I'm stuck. I'm very busy protecting my ego, but I do that at the expense of growth and improvement. And so I get to be right. I just don't get to get better. And there's this compromise between, do you want to be right or do you want to get better? And sometimes you can't have both, pick a lane. And so for those that are serious about their trading, what you need to do is pull your finger out and stop blaming anything outside of yourself. Jocko Willink, Navy SEAL, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, who focuses on taking full responsibility. He's written the book, Extreme Accountability. And it's pretty much, he says, anything that happens, it's your fault. He says, I know it's not, but if you live like that, to go, it happens, it's my fault, that I look at life through the lens of I get to have choices on how I fix things. I get to change things. I take ownership, but by taking ownership, I can create change and I can grow. So as a trader, if you accept that, okay, things will happen beyond my control, but it's my fault, not as a, oh, poor me, it's my fault, but it's my fault. I can do something about it. I need to learn a bit more. I need to practice. I need to widen my understandings of both my fundamentals and my technical. I need to widen all of that. And so I take ownership for my world and my decisions, and I don't live like a victim. And this is a crucial aspect here of my life, my choice, my fault, but my future.
Oof.
Yeah.
I want to draw some of these aspects out here, Michael. You've thrown a lot at us, and I'm going to have to listen to this back on the video a few times. I'm liking what you're saying. So there are aspects here that you're talking about internal versus external locus of control. So internal locus of control is we say we are responsible. External locus of control is where we blame circumstances and situations around us. Now, the external locus of control people as traders, they tend to blame things like the trading platform, their spouse. It was the market events. It was the fact that they declared some dividend somewhere. They blame external things and they say, that is why I am a failure. I can blame those things and I can feel good about myself. I'm preserving my ego. But you're saying that that can actually impact us in unexpected ways. Not only can we feel that from an ego perspective, we are in a spot of bother because that is not what we need to do as a trader. We need to actually be detached from those results, focused on the things that we can control and making sure that we take accountability and responsibility for our own actions so that we can improve our outcomes next time.
Yeah, you can, as I said, you can be right or you can get better. And it's okay to be right. And in fact, what in the case that you said, what the person was saying, oh, it's because of this and because of that. And you can be right. It's because of that. Fine. But your ability to grow as a trader will hit a glass ceiling. You continue to be right, but you'll continue to trade at the same level and hit the same problems, hit the same responses and the same reasons, and you'll be stuck on this treadmill of inertia. And eventually you'll say, the platform didn't work. The system wasn't right. And you'd be right. So again, you want to be right or you want to grow. It's your choice. This is not, warm hugs and kumbaya and everything is wonderful. This is like, there's a reality attached. If you want to grow, you're going to do some tough learning and here's some truths and hug a few cactuses. And one of them is stop blaming. Stop blaming. Get out of the habit. It doesn't mean that what's happened is wrong. It means get out of the habit of blaming that stuff. Take ownership for the stuff you can, and let's get busy.
Do you know, though, some people have trouble with that because they are so wrapped up in black and white thinking. Now, one of the things I've suggested to people is if they can't fully take it all on as their own reasons for why I went wrong is because of me, ask yourself, what contribution did I make? So that can be an interim step. I even suggest to my 16-year-old came home the other day and said, oh, the teacher said this and it was awful. Right. And I said, yes, but what was your contribution to that specific event? Now, then the truth came out. So I think if you're having trouble taking full responsibility, then take that interim step of saying, what did I do to contribute? I'd love your thoughts on that view.
Yeah, and this is the exact thing. What's my bit attached to that? And when I go, what's my bit? I'm taking ownership, because if I want to move from being a victim and blaming and having all this to being empowered, I got to own the stuff. And in fact, that's one of the challenges when my ego is attached to the out. I don't want to try new or difficult things. I actually want something or someone else to be able to fix it. And when my ego is attached to the outcome, I also won't try risky things as well. I won't want to try anything that's going to compromise me looking bad, which is sometimes what happens when traders are encouraged to try something different or saying, hey, just try it again. And no, I don't know, I might fail and that sort of thing. And the reason we won't is because their ego is attached to looking good as part of their trading.
And fear is such an aspect here. Traders really have to grapple with fear.
Oh, yeah.
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 I'd love your thoughts on that. What can traders do to overcome their fears so that they can maintain that equilibrium and that clarity of thought required to get the good results in the market?
So this all comes down to your relationship with failure and being comfortable with uncertainty. See, our brains are wired for consistency and certainty. We like that. And when we don't have that, it makes us worried. And therefore, our ability to try things that are new and different, risking failure, there's an inert kind of pull back, stay within your comfort zone. The interesting research that was done by Carol Dweck in her book Mindset, actually, I may even have a copy. Yeah, in her book Mindset, she talks about fixed and growth mindsets approach to challenges. And that's not a new term. It's used a lot in schools, fixed and growth mindsets. What's interesting is the study that was done, and it was done in New York City with grade 5 kids. And they split the kids into two different groups, and they gave them challenges or puzzles to do. And in one group, Group A, they rewarded their intelligence. And that was their currency. And in Group B, they rewarded their effort. Then what they did is they then gave them more challenging puzzles, really difficult stuff, and stuff which is probably not likely to be able to achieve. Group A, where they rewarded them for how smart they were, there was a high level of frustration, a higher level of giving up, and a higher level of not even wanting to try in the first place, simply because they felt that if I couldn't achieve it, then I wouldn't get the recognition. My ego, my self-esteem was based on my achievement. In Group B, as you could appreciate, when they were rewarded for effort, they tried harder stuff. In fact, they were a little bit empowered by the challenges and switched on. And so they kept trying more and more. And Carol explained that if you want to keep a child trapped and really cut off their creativity, keep telling them how smart they are. Keep rewarding them for, geez, you're clever. If you want to help a child to grow and try new things and to expand the capacity, going, keep trying. That's great. Your success will come from the effort. It doesn't matter what you've got in your head. It applies all about what happens in here, how much heart you have to keep going. And she found that approach, the fix and the growth, your relationship with failure also determined the goals that you had as well. If you had what we call performance goals, those that actually made me look good, so they're all about ego, setting goals at a level that, yeah, I can achieve that, and I can prove to my friends, my colleagues that I'm a successful trader because look what I've been able to achieve. But they're not stretch goals. And she said, if you have, for those with the growth mindset, you set those stretch goals, the ones that are out of your comfort zone, the ones that you might not get first, second, third time, but they make you a better trader or a better athlete or a better performer, whatever it might be, by stretching out of that. She said, those types of goals are the ones that bring out your best. And it really comes down to your relationship with failure. Does failure make you feel wrong? Or does failure go, that's okay, it's just a step for my future? So you need to understand what happens inside your head and your heart when you deal with failure. And that's going to be the pivot point for whether you lean into trading and you're okay with trying some difficult stuff, or you're okay with things not going right, or whether you stop trying, stick to your narrative, and don't go out of that little comfort zone.
And the other aspect I found interesting in that study was that the kids that were praised for being smart were the ones who were more likely to cheat on a test
Yes.
because they were maintaining their identity as a smart kid.
Yeah, there was one particular school I did some work with, and this is for a high performance sporting school. And my role with them was to help these elite, or this kind of almost elite type of athletes, be better than what they are, to have that kind of competitive mindset. The biggest challenge that many of them had is that they never had failed before. They've always been great based on talent, but now they were going up against other kids who are also decent talented, and they had to work. They had to sing for their supper. They had to earn that victory. And it was unfamiliar to them to have to deal with failure. For those that base their ego and reputation on that, it was a big crash. It was a hard lesson for them to take.
We have to be so careful of the identities that we assume. What would be your top tips for traders wanting to bounce back fast?
So I think one of the bits of advice that I got from a mentor of mine, Pete Cook, he said, expect 50% of your projects to fail. Now, he says projects, this is in my business, any ideas or initiatives to launch new programs, etc. Expect half of them to fail. That's not being pessimistic. That's just allowing you to be light with your implementation. The core fundamental behind resilience in business is not about being happier and healthier. They're all important. It's about your ability to keep implementing despite what gets thrown your way. What was it that Winston Churchill said? To go from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm, that kind of concept. And Pete Cook would explain it. You want to fail light, understand that, expect that things will fail, be okay with that, and not sort of get upset in the process. In martial arts, we have this concept about train hard, fight easy, meaning you want to go and make your mistakes in training so that the fight is easy, but understand that you're going to mess up along the way. So I'd say number one, you want to be able to fail fast, to be able to get out there and try things, fail forward. So when you fail at something, when something didn't work, learn from it. Go, all right, rather than go, I'm an idiot, or that didn't work, I don't have a future in this. Rather than go down that narrative, which is not useful, what's helpful to go, all right, what could I learn from that? What could I do better? Which kind of fits into that third aspect of fail kind. Because if you want to be, people will say, oh no, I motivate myself by kind of being hard. I go, yeah, I get that. But what I would say is kindness before criticism. And we use this a lot in our families. You speak to yours first, kindness first before criticism. It's okay to be corrective, kind first, because kindness speaks leagues. What did I do well? Focus on that before giving a bit of feedback to yourself. So you want to fail fast, fail forward, fail kind.
That fail kind, I'll just stop you on that one, because one of the things that I've looked at is that we must be introspective enough to take into account the mistakes that we've made, so that we don't forgive immediately in terms of our own self, forgiving ourselves for all the things that go wrong, but we eventually have to get more positive about that impact. Some of my best mistakes in the market have revealed the most and have drawn me to an actual better result down the track.
Yeah. And this whole thing of, oh, I have to forgive myself. I love this. There's this phrase, and I think it's from Louise Hay. And it's when it comes to forgiving other people, I forgive you for not being the person that I expected you to be, and I set you free. And this is a mental thing. You might go, oh, that's a little bit airy fairy. What about when you think about to yourself, I forgive you, Michael, for not getting the outcome that you wanted to get. I forgive you for being imperfect today. I forgive you for trying and not getting the outcome, and I'm okay with that. When I use that kind of dialogue, I go, hey, I don't need to ride myself all the time to get performance. I want to start with forgiving myself for not being okay, do it fast, and then go, all right, where's the growth here? Where's the learning here? Where's the improvement? Not just to sit in self-pity, because here's the trap, is I sit in self-pity. Oh, poor me. I'll never get this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this. I look around at what everyone else is doing. You know what? Comparison is one of the fastest ways for unhappiness. When we look around, we sit in comparison and we get in this dialogue. And what we're basically saying to ourselves is, I'm not good enough. And that is because of fear of failure. When you are not comfortable with failure, we fall back to I'm not good enough. And I'm saying this to take the mickey out, because I need you to see this. Even those who put on a strong bravado, on the inside, if you do the I'm not good enough stuff in your head, it drags you down and it stops you actually believing in yourself. And so the key here is kindness first, and then learning after that. Don't fall into the self-pity trap of poor me, I've tried, I can't do it, etc. I think the first thing, if the message in here resonates, what you want to do is grab this white paper I've put together, which highlights how resilience can be a superpower, how we can use resilience as a high performance tool to accelerate implementation in everything you do. And I've coined it more for building resilient teams. So it's designed for people who have teams, but anyone who works in high pressure environments, who deals with setbacks and challenges and wants to achieve more. The content in here outlines it. So go to the website, download the white paper, which is the Building Resilient Teams. It's a free download. Start your journey there. Now, if you find that there's more you want to explore, there's short courses, there's other training, there's speaking at conference. Start your education there, download the white paper, and then get in contact from there forward.
Michael, you're a superstar. Thank you so much for sharing with our traders. I so much appreciate your expertise, the ability that you have to convey the concepts about how to bounce back fast. It's absolutely essential for every single trader. So if you enjoyed this interview, tell a friend, refer a friend, because that's the best way that we can grow. Thanks so much, Michael.
Thank you.